everyone, and welcome back to Two Guys Watching Football, where I'm pleased to be joined by a very special guest. It's Nick Boyle, tight end for your Baltimore Ravens. Nick is one of the true vets on the team, drafted by the Ravens in the 5th round of the 2015 draft. He'll be going into his 8th year in the purple and black this fall. Nick, my guy, how's it going?
Hey man, nice to finally meet you and glad to be here.
It's a pleasure, man. And so everyone can obviously see the black box. I don't know what my connection from
Yeah.
Canada is down to Baltimore. We don't want to get these guys on video, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got that like Max Williams accent going on. You know, he's from Minnesota,
Yeah, Minnesota's close, man. Minnesota's
Yeah,
close.
yeah.
And I know how are things going with the family, man? I know you have your third one on the way. How's that going with you and the football life and the family life combined?
Yeah, I mean it's all good. My wife, I'm sure, I think the due date of our daughter is probably at the end of May. I think May 29th, but I know she really wants to get this baby out. And, I can wait, but I also can have the baby come out. So, I don't have to hear all the aches and pains at night and stuff. So that's exciting. It's always exciting having a child. My son Brock, who was our first, turned 2 in December, and he's just so much fun. Always wanted to go outside. I always want to do what you do. You know what I mean? Just being around and learning and just seeing your kids grow. And then I have another daughter after Brock who's named Blakely. She turned 1 in March, and they're all so much fun. And she's starting to come around. Where I can hang out with her a little more. She's walking around now, like getting a little more personality. I'm not too much of a baby stage kind of a guy. Not
I
too
feel
much.
you there,
So
man. I
yeah,
feel you
yeah,
there.
for sure. So they're awesome. And it's awesome to be around them every day, and I'm so lucky for that.
Yeah, like my little girl, she's 3, and then my wife's actually due June 8th. So I'm like a week after you guys. So you and
Yeah,
I are in the same spot right now. But the
nice.
difference
Yeah,
is you have a third one, you have a second one in between, and I don't know how you're
yeah,
doing it because
yeah. It'll be 303. It'll be a little
crazy,
tough, but
crazy
I think we
man.
could do it. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's
I didn't.
awesome. That's awesome. Good for you guys. And yeah, I feel you on the aches and pains and the. I'm sure she can hear me upstairs right now, and she's probably rolling her eyes at me. But
Yeah, yeah.
she's like, "You don't have to carry this thing."
Yeah, yeah, no, I heard I heard everything, and then we'll start comparing. Oh, my back may hurt. Oh no, my back hurts because I'm carrying a baby. Well, my back hurts because or my leg hurts a little bit today. It's always good fun, but it's like we just go back and forth on competing on whose body can hurt a little more at this time.
That's awesome. I love it, man. I love it. And
Yeah,
so we got you here for some time tonight. I want to go all the way back to kind of where it all began. I find when you guys join as Ravens, we get to know like the college player and a little bit of the high school. But I want to go all the way back. You grew up in Sussex, New Jersey, attended High Point Regional High. Did football run in your family, or what kind of got you into the sport?
yeah. I mean, not really. Football was an interesting start for me in my growing up. So when I was growing up, I was into sports. I have 2 older sisters who are twins, and I have an older brother. And my sisters are 6 years older than me. My brother's 3 years, so I was the baby, always kind of doing what they do. And they played a lot of sports, so I followed along to play sports with them. But I wasn't really a follower of sports, like watching ESPN and knowing teams and stuff. And nor was my parents weren't very. And they like to watch it. Like my dad liked to watch football, but he wasn't going to go crazy, if like what so-called the Giants, because that's the team around by us, lost. So when I was growing up, I was really into skateboarding, huge skateboarder. Love to ride like ATVs, quads, do extreme sports and all that kind of stuff. And when I first played football was 8th grade, because my parents were like, if you want to try it, don't try it too early. Just try it, try it in 8th grade like my brother did because he played football through 8th grade into high school. And so I played it, and it was like, I don't know if I really like this. I'm not very. I love basketball. I was pretty tall and pretty skinny back then. Love basketball, football. I didn't like it too much. I didn't really want to hit. I didn't really want to do all that. Practice. I didn't really understand it, but I kind of stuck with it. It was always like, I don't know if I'm going to play next year after 8th grade. So freshman year comes along. Playing the freshman squad. It's fun. So you're not like at the varsity level, so it's not like everyone's joking around. But it's freshman, everyone's kind of on the same playing field. That was pretty good. And then sophomore year came around, still iffy about football. Still, I'm a big basketball guy. I'm like, I love basketball. Not really into the physicality of it too much. Sophomore year comes rolled around. High school, we ran a triple option offense, and so I started at wide receiver. an outside linebacker, and my wide receiver role was really to, run the plays in, the play call. So I run it in, get the play call, go out there and block as a wide receiver. And, honestly, my effort out there wasn't really good because I was getting caught on tape, like not running to the ball and stuff. And I remember my coaches getting after me. And then this is when it kind of turned. So my high school coach, Jim Delaney, did a really good job of running the weight room there, building a weight room program kind of a thing to just to help football and be around the guys more. And, I wasn't even into that either. I was like, it's super intimidating to go in the weight room. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go in there with all the bigger guys, not that strong. And then he started taking attendance. And I was like, oh, all right, like, I got to go in now. He's going to take attendance. And, the days I would start skipping were like squat days. And I'd come the next day, like, where are you, man? Like, where were you yesterday? And I'd have to think of something. And it got to a point where I'm like, I can't come in the next day and tell him, whatever I did. So I just started lifting weights, and then I started to get stronger and stronger. And junior year, I moved to tight end and defensive end. And, as I got stronger and I still was, growing height wise, I just started to like it because I wasn't getting bullied out there. It was fun to me. And so that's when it kind of caught on fire and kind of spiraled, down to Delaware. I got an offer, it was always my mindset was never, I'm going to go play in college. I'm going to go play in the NFL. It was always like, oh, I have a shot. So you know what? I'm going to give it everything I can to get to that shot. And I think that's what kind of drove me to get there. I think players nowadays or younger guys who say, oh, I'm going to go play in college and get a D1 scholarship, which is great. It's a great mindset. But I think it kind of adds some, comfort, to them thinking that already, that they kind of are there. And so for me, I was always having that like, oh, that glimmer, maybe I can play in college and maybe get a scholarship. I was really actually trying to go to college to long snap. I was trying to get a long snapping scholarship. So I'd go to a couple long snapping camps. Yeah. And I was like, this is how I'm going to get there. And then I went to a couple one-day college camps where they have like all the junior days or whatever. You go out there as high schoolers and do some, run a 40, do all these things on the field. And I got an offer from Delaware from that. And I got an offer from Monmouth for DN from those. And that was the only way because we did the triple option. It was just all blocking, man. I was just blocking as a tight end. So, I mean, it kind of paid off, but it wasn't like I was really getting anything from my tape and I was big and I was strong. And it was just like, and then like I said, like, I don't know if I'm going to play, but I'm going to give it my all. Then I go to college and obviously still love football, still trying to soak it all up and everything. And then, junior year rolls around like, oh, maybe I have a chance to play. Maybe. I'm not like, I'm going to go play in the NFL. It's always not like that. And that's what kind of fueled me and allowed me to really give it my all to get there because it knew I had a chance, but I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. Therefore, trying to do everything I could.
Right. And obviously something clicked at some point because you finished at Delaware. You set records for, I think you were first in receptions, second in yards, and
number
TDs.
of receptions,
Yeah, so obviously that clicked at some point. But, that's a fascinating backstory because if I think Nick Boyle in my head, I think insanely good blocker and the effort level being, the motor's running hot every play.
Yeah.
So
that grew into me. Yeah, that grew into me. Thank God I'm not that guy in high school and we're not running to the ball when I'm a wide receiver split out to the right and the ball's running to the left and I'm just going to jog off the ball. That was such a good thing that got out of my system. And, and like I said, like football kind of just started spiraling and growing on me. Like if someone said, hey, did you like football at first? I was like, probably no. Like I don't want to go to football. I don't want to go to football practice too much. It wasn't that much fun for me. I was getting beat up. I was tall and skinny, and then so I started to get a little bigger and then it started to grow. And then it kind of just started spiraling. And every year just pick up a little more, get smarter, a little more, get stronger, and then I just really found, to love it.
And he spiraled into the bully on the field.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No, I love it. And I was looking through, I was actually looking at your Delaware page, and it said, as a high school senior, you set a school record with 10 sacks. So obviously you played, was it defensive end or D-tackle?
Yep. Yeah, no, DN.
So did you ever think about going the DN route at the next level, or was it always kind of tight end?
Like going to college, you're saying?
Yeah, college level.
I thought I was probably going to go for defensive end, just because I enjoy defense more. And like I said, going back to a triple option offense, like it's all blocking. I think I had like 7 receptions my senior year. I think and we didn't throw the ball at all. And so I mean, I have some pretty good highlights. I think of blocking people on VHS, but I mean, it was all like sacks, and I love defense, and that's where I kind of got noticed. So that's why I said like I went to the Monmouth one day, and I was like, oh, they can have me for D end, and that's when I was also going to like the Patriot leagues, like Colgate's and
Right.
Harvard. wasn't smart enough for Harvard, but the Colgates and stuff where they didn't give scholarships back. They're like, oh yeah, you can play D end, and Delaware was the one who was like, oh, well, like let's go play tight end. I'm like, all right,
Okay.
like, and let's just roll with it.
Oh, that's awesome. And so
Yeah,
obviously the Blue Hens and Baltimore have some great connections. I mean,
yeah.
obviously yourself, Gino Gradkowski, Joe Flacco, obviously Joe Flacco. So when
hmm
you're on campus, was there a big buzz around Flacco and his NFL career and Super Bowl
Oh
champion and
yeah.
all that?
Oh yeah, I mean, anyone says Delaware, everyone says Joe Flacco, like right
Okay,
away.
that
Rich Gannon's kind of there, but he's just not as popular as Joe Flacco, especially to us or my generation. And anyone who asks where you went to college, even now, or so much, are like, "Oh, I went to Delaware." Oh, Joe Flacco. That's the first name that comes out of everyone's mouth,
right
and well deserved. I mean, because he's just an awesome quarterback and did awesome things in the NFL. So, yeah,
for
but he's
sure.
he's he's the big dude there, big guy on
Um,
campus.
That's cool. So after an outstanding career at Delaware, where you went on to develop those receiving skills, like I said earlier, you couple records and number two on the TDs list, and so you get an invite going into the 2015 draft process to go to the Senior Bowl. And so
hmm
I'm a big NFL draft guy. I love the process. I love doing the scouting. I like to pretend I'm a scout. I'm that guy. So I want to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl. What was the process like, and how much did you think it helped you as a prospect, especially coming from like a smaller school as
Yeah.
Delaware?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. First of all, getting into the Senior Bowl was like awesome for me, an awesome opportunity. And going there, I'm like, man, I'm going to be playing against the big 1A guys. So I mean, like my expectations, even at like, so going back to like high school, my expectations were for college playing, they were super high. And then maybe going to the NFL were super high. So now we're trying to get to the NFL, going to the Senior Bowl. I'm like, my man, like these guys are going to be awesome. They'd be crazy good. And then I go out on the field, and I'm like, man, I can play with these dudes. You know what I mean? And it just clicks like that. And that's how I kind of felt like my whole football career building up was. And I think it's not that I doubt myself, but you just hype everything up. It's a lot of hype around the world. You know what I mean? It's just hype,
Yeah,
super hype until you go out there. And it was like,
right.
wow, man, I'm out here for practices. I think I'm going against the big 1A, the big schools, because obviously coming from a small school, you have some knock a little bit, not the greatest competition. And I think that just allowed me to show that I can play with those guys up there. And I also like always kind of surprising myself, always kind of finding a way to step up to the competition and kind of get it done. And that was, really good, obviously a confidence builder. And, obviously talking to all the scouts there too, and just the whole thing. And people kind of complain about, the combine. Oh, you're not missing it through the combine. It's a long schedule. You're not missing it the Senior Bowl, your meetings and interviews and practice. But like, looking back, man, like you got to really soak all that up, because like maybe it's not enjoyable at the time, but like, man, you're a guy who got to go to the Senior Bowl. You were a guy who got to go to the combine. You know what I mean? And those are just experiences that you'll never forget.
I think it's weird for us fans because like it's literally job interviews for you guys.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we don't
I
really
know.
look at it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I know
so
for sure.
And so, every time I always joke about this. So the Ravens obviously have a huge connection to the Senior Bowl. They draft at least I think two to four guys a year. So I always joke every time I do a mock draft. I always make sure I have a couple Senior Bowl guys because that's how
Yeah.
it's going to play out.
Got to throw them
So,
on there.
so did you meet with the Ravens at the Senior Bowl? Like, did you know they had interest in you?
Yeah, I met with I think there was the area scout who scouted like the
Okay,
Delaware kind of area. I met with him. Um, and I think you meet with all kind of the scouts there, you know what I mean? And like you kind of have a try to get an idea, but not really, man. I'm just like a kid coming out of college, just trying to, answer all these questions to the best of my ability and just, tell them how it kind of is. And I do remember sitting down with them, and they asked me a question. It was like, off like the top of their head, like in mid interview, they're like, how many weeks are in the year? And I was like, oh, 365. Because I'm thinking days, you know what I mean? Off the stop. Like I didn't even think of weeks. And he's like, no, dude, like what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, 360. He's like, no, weeks. And I was like, oh man. And then you're on the spot. I'm like, I can't do this math right now. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's something I'll
that's
always remember
amazing.
from one of the Ravens interviews at the Senior Bowl.
Well, it's a good thing we're
That was
not.
just
We're just
legit.
asking you to block dudes. We don't need you to do math on the field.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
natural
Yeah, for
connection.
sure.
I love it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so, obviously, coming out like you kind of mentioned, being in the triple option in high school is obviously you're going to develop those blocking skills, and that's what you're one of the top blocking tight ends in the league. We all know that. And you do some great things receiving wise. But like at Delaware, was it a coaching point to develop the receiving skills, or were your coaches like, you are such a good blocker, we need to build on that? Or was it just, let's make you the most roundabout football player we can?
Um, I mean, I had two coaches in my college career. So I had Coach Casey Keeler for the first 2 years, and then I had Coach Dave Brock for the last two. And every single year I had a different tight end coach. So it was a bunch of different coaches kind of rolling through, picking different brains and what they kind of want of you. And I think it kind of developed. I think I developed more into a receiver my junior year. I think our offense threw the ball a little better and everything. But it's just like my freshman year, my true freshman year, I had two receptions and one was a touchdown. I was just wide open. And then my sophomore year, I think I had like 20 receptions. Like it wasn't crazy. And then I think it was just like kind of different mindset, kind of different offense. And they were like, "Hey man, we're going to get you the ball if you run these routes kind of well." And I think from junior year, those last 2 years at Delaware, I think I grew the most, as a football player and just most learning about football, the knowledge of the game and understanding it because people can run plays and, remember what they have to do and, that's it. And it's really just expanding everything just so you can think faster, know everything, the whole formation, what's this guy doing, what's this guy doing, reading defenses. And I think I grew a lot those last 2 years, which allowed me to, get more receptions.
Right, right. And then, obviously right now you're currently rehabbing on your way back from a pretty significant injury. And,
Hmm.
I've seen the training video. So obviously it's great. You're working out without a brace. You're working out with James Harrison. So I got to press on that. Like, is that something
Yeah.
you're doing regularly?
Yeah, well, that's when I was in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I went out to Arizona for a rehab at that gym he lists at. It's called Real PEP, run by a guy. Because after the season, not that I had issues with the rehab in Baltimore. Everyone has good intentions, and everyone's trying to get you better. I just needed, after spending a significant amount of time there, just to go somewhere else with the family, get different ideas, just to rehab. That's how it works. So at the end of the year, I called him. Hey, listen, man, I think I just need to go somewhere else because the way I was feeling last year and trying to go play was just, man, I was on like one leg, dude. I was in like, oh man, I in the pregame locker room. I'm like, how am I going to, get through this
You look like the
game playing
Terminator in
10
that brace. I
snaps?
got to be real with you.
No, I'm no more bracing,
I
man.
know.
And so we went out there, and that was the gym where James Harrison works out at, and I saw him like the first couple days, kind of acted tough, cold shoulderly, whatnot. And then I kind of made a joke like, "Oh, you know who I am?" And he's like, "Oh, your number, da, 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 da." Yeah. So, and then after that, I just got really cool, really good friends with him, and the workouts there and the rehab there were really good.
Oh, that's
And like
good.
I said, like that dude's super strong. So like, I'm gonna do his workouts, and what he does. So
And is there
he's a
any
good
Pittsburgh
dude. Yeah.
Baltimore rivalry coming up there, or is it pretty much like, let's just go to work?
Kind of just go to work. I mean, he
Okay.
acts like right now he's like doesn't really follow up as much. I think he follows up a little more than he says he does. But I was like, oh man, you guys got Mitch Trubisky, and they get Mitch Trubisky in the offseason or something. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, he's like, I don't follow that anymore. Like, he's just trying to get super big and strong.
Oh, he's
It's
an
funny.
animal. Like
Oh
watching his
yeah,
videos, and then that video you guys throw on the medicine ball. Like I think I slipped a disc in my back watching
yeah, dude. Like,
that.
he's like a freak. Like, even lifting next to him is like, man, I just feel like a eighth grader, and he's like a senior in college right now. He's just remarkable in that aspect.
Oh, that's amazing. And so, like, when I look at tight end in Baltimore, it's always been a priority for the team. Going all the way back, we had 2010 they double dip with Pitt and Dixon, 2015 with yourself and Max,
Hmm.
2018 Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst, and then this year, of course, they bring in Charlie Kohler and Isaiah Likely. So, how
Hmm.
important has the veteran leadership been? And I kind of want to start at the start because when you came in, Pitta was dealing with that injury. Crockett Gilmore was there. Ben Watson came on board in 2017. Who was kind of
Hmm.
the veteran in the locker room that showed you the ropes, showed you how to be a pro?
Um, I would probably say Ben Watson, my second year, him coming in, and Dennis was hurt the first year, but he was still always in meetings, still always present. And I'm still pretty close to Dennis to this day. Talk to him, and he was serious, but he also brought like a sarcastic, funny kind of humor to meetings, which wasn't like it was frowned upon. It was awesome, made everything light. And I think so is Dennis and Ben that kind of just showed the way And as a rookie, man, like you kind of latch on and look for some of those guys, and like, you're just really trying to keep up. You're really just trying to know everything and soak everything up. And you can look at guys in your position, but then again, you look at other guys in other positions and just see what they do as well. So I mean, we got like Terrell Suggs, we had Steve Smith, Joe Flacco. I mean, we just had a bunch of guys, and it was just cool to learn from everybody, not only my position group, but just the whole team, and see how everyone takes care of themselves and how they just go about their business every day.
So what's like the number one thing you thought you like had to learn to kind of make that step? When I asked Kevin last week, he said, and it's something that again I don't think us as fans really appreciate. He said learning how to take care of your body, and obviously
Yeah.
that's just something where we will never get what that actually means. But is that kind of what
hmm
your experience was, or was it the mental side, the playbook, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't think it was take care of my body as much as before I got injured. My knee, like, has
Yeah,
turned everything around, dude. I'm, like, trying to find everything anyway to get stuff fixed, but before my knee injury, for the taking care of my body, which is different for everyone, like, I didn't ever schedule massages. I didn't do anything. If something kind of felt a little off, maybe I'd say tell them the trainers, but I was just going out there and just going. Like, that's how I was. And for me as a rookie and trying to think of the hardest thing to kind of learn about, I think it was playbook, but obviously I think I put a lot of time in the playbook, studying the playbook. So I mean, it's tough. Um, Looking back at rookie year, I'd say when I had the most anxiety and anxiousness and nervousness was probably at the pre-practice walkthroughs. Because when you're going through the plays walkthrough speed, if you're not doing what you're doing and you mess up the route, everyone can tell. You know what I mean? If it's
right.
out there in practice, if someone messes up, maybe one your coach tells or can tell, or the OC. But like if you're doing everything walking around, I just remember the AECTs, which is kind of our walkthrough practices, were being like so like, oh, so tense. You don't ever want to mess up. You know what I mean? You mess up, you just feel like you failed like the whole everything. So I think it's just kind of obviously learning the playbook, and I can't really pinpoint one thing for me. It just kind of catch up and, like I said, know the playbook, know what you're doing out there, and make sure you're reliable and count upon.
Right, right. And so through 7 years in Baltimore, you've had a number of different offensive coordinators, especially at the start. I think it was three in a span of 4 or 5 years. And something again, I think we as fans don't understand is how much a changing coordinator can impact the playbook. And so when you just look at things
hmm
like shifts in terminology, so something as small as a name for a combination block, like I
hmm
might call a play side combo between a guard and a tackle, a deuce block, and the next
hmm
coordinator might call it a slip. Like how much can that kind of impact the players, or is it pretty like at the end of the day, is football football and you guys figure it out,
Yeah.
or is it pretty significant?
I think maybe the first initial turnover may be a little bit fuzzy, but that's when, someone's new coming in, you have the springtime, you have this meetings prior to going on the field, and you have that to get that all ironed out, and get that kind of sorted upon. But when you think about it, football, everyone has the same concepts. Coaching is like copying and putting your own spin on it. So like we can call one pass concept, we'll call one thing Milwaukee here, and then we just call it, tail or something differently. You know what I mean? And as a player, you kind of make these connections. Oh, alley or something for verts is called this here, and it's called this here. You know what I mean? You kind of make those connections, which kind of help you. And I think we have a lot of time, a lot of meeting prep, and especially if you want to be good, time on your own, studying that to be okay. Because I don't think there's really ever excuse to be out there in the field and not know what to do. Because, well, first of all, that's the worst feeling in the world when you hear the play and you look up and you're like, "What do I am doing, or where am I going?" Like that's like heart dropping feels to me. It's like, oh man, what is this? So I never want to be in that position. And I just think as it being your job, you have to know what to do. You gotta know where to line up. You gotta know how to run whatever you're doing and do it as best as you can. So I think for the OC change, it's definitely different. Everyone does stuff differently. But as a player, you're kind of used to it because they're all really the same general concepts, just with a little different spin on it.
Right. And then
Yeah.
obviously we saw some very, I'll say unique usage. Not like you were kind of used in different ways during your whole time in Baltimore, but under Greg Roman, it's been, I mean, I never know where you're going to line up anymore. Like
Yeah, dude,
it,
it's crazy. I'm telling you, especially with all the tight ends, and sometimes we're in the huddle to be, we got an F, we got a Y, F, and a U, and we're so good as our tight end group on knowing where to go. sometimes we don't even know what, YFU we're at until we hear the play. And then we are like, all right, I'm going to go here. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I'm wide before the play. So you're just listening to a certain play. Like our group has become so good at just listening to the play and knowing where to go in different positions and lining up and motioning and moving because that's just what's asked of us. And I think Giro does a really good job with his blocking and his, blocking schemes and even passing. And we just have such a huge impact on that. And for us, we have to know everything, what to do and where to line up. And I think that's why we got really good at it. And sometimes that's a little nervous feeling. We're like, where are you? I'll be like, Mark, what you at? And I was like, I don't know. And Pat's like, I don't know where we're at. And then we go to play and like, oh, we know where to go now. And you got to listen to the whole play. And then you got to make sure when you're thinking of where to go, if you don't know where you're at to play, what the snap count is, because you don't like want to think about it at the end and not get a snap count.
Right.
So,
I'll never
so
forget
we've
the
gotten
first
pretty good.
time I saw the diamond and I was like, what's going on and where are they going here? And it was, I think
Yeah.
there was that game against New England where you guys, in 2019, when you guys,
Hmm.
it was on one of the power reads and you guys ripped off like back to back big gains and it was the same play. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, but both plays were the same, but the alignments it's the window dressing, right? It's
Yeah,
completely
yeah, yeah.
different.
Like, dude, we can run the same exact play. We're just motioning this guy and running from a different location. You know what I mean? It looks like a totally kind of different play to a lot of people, but it's all, like I said, general concepts that we're running. We're getting really good at, and just put different window dressing, like you said, with a different motion here. Oh, we're going to run it with this guy instead of this guy, and we're going to line up differently.
Right, right. And
And
that's what's so cool.
Giro's the best at that. I mean, man, his run game schemes in his mind on who we're reading and how we're reading them and all that stuff is just really, it's just tremendous. And like I said, and then people knock on the pass game out. It's nothing with the Pat man. He's really good at everything. I think it's a player execution for the whole team. And yeah, like I said, but just the run game's like I feel like if a normal person came into a run game meeting on one of the install days and they flip through the pictures that fast that they do and know what to do, it's like they'd be like, "Oh my god, bro! I don't even know one of these. I don't even know who we're reading, who we're blocking, how many we're leaving." It's that detailed and that specific.
I volunteer to be that guy because I would love to just be a
Yeah,
fly
that'd
on
be.
that wall.
Yeah, it'd be fun, man. I'm telling you, you'd look at it and be like, "Holy cow!" Like we're going through all these plays, and yet you do build up from the spring through the summer, and obviously studying. But in certain game plan plays, I mean, you just there's a lot to it, and switching defenses, week to week, and who you're going to go against, and what kind of personnel you're going against. That switches the same play. You know what I mean? On how we're going to block
Right.
it sometimes. So we're going to just change the blocking scheme or call it something different. Or this week we're leaving two. This week we're leaving one, or leaving one. You're going to this guy. It's just always different. It's always changing.
I remember 2020 when you guys like I mean you guys had used it before but not to the same extent and it seemed like one of
Hmm.
the evolving features of that 2020 run game was the counter bash play where Lamar ripped off I think he dunked a touchdown on all four of the NFC East teams.
Hmm.
And you guys would build that off of the outside zone concept with Dobbins, and it was like
Hmm.
that was just such a unique element that really showed like how he was evolving to his personnel. Where you got
Yeah.
Dobbins who could do that work outside, and then it was really getting those linebackers to fade. So they run the counter and pull the guard tackle guard center
Hmm.
center tackle combo back the other way. And I
Yeah.
was like just the way that evolved and the way you guys worked off it was incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, he's the best at it. And there's sometimes too, we'll look at a play and like, man, I'm motioning or Casper motioning or whatever you want to call it. Like, so we're full speed sprinting and they'll snap us before we pass the center. And then we got two guards pulling. And then we also got another receiver trying to come through there. So like it's like, man, we're gonna just make this work. We're all gonna do it because it's gonna be good for us. But there's times we'll look at the picture on the play and he'll tell us to do, and we'll just look at each other and start laughing or something like, yeah, we're totally gonna have to how are we gonna do that? Then we kind of figure it out. And like I said, there's so many moving parts, and you get out there and you kind of joke around in the meetings and like, oh, we're really doing this. You know what I mean? With people going in different directions, pullers going certain ways, reads going different ways. It's crazy, but it works. And like I said, he's just really really good, really really thoughtful and unique. And I've kind of never really seen a guy kind of attack certain teams the way we do, and totally different one week and can be totally different another week.
Right. Yeah, no, it's been, I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's also a headache for me trying to, I'm like
to
on
figure it out.
Google,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm like, what the hell is this? And so I'm
it's
always trying to do
yeah.
the research element to figure out what exactly I'm
Dude,
watching. But
and sometimes it may not even blocked right. So sometimes people study stuff and we're not, or the halfback went the wrong way, or we read the wrong guy. So I mean, it's funny to for people like that's why like I kind of never. You kind of have an idea if I watch a football team what they're supposed to do, but it's hard for me to judge them and tell them because one, I don't know if it's blocked right or ran right, and I don't know what they're told to do as well. You know, it's hard. That's the really hard part about it, and so it's just like so sometimes it's not even blocked right and it works well. It's just funny, and
right,
especially with the read offense, we're just leaving people unblocked and let Lamar make three
right.
people miss and go. You just so
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then one of the other parts of the 2019 season that for us as fans was a lot of fun was the bromance you had going with Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. Like that
yeah.
was a blast to watch. And so, how important were those bonds for the chemistry, and how do you guys kind of balance that and have like the friendship on one hand, but you're also competing for snaps at the same time. Like, how does that kind of work out in the tight end room?
Yeah, I mean that was the beautiful thing about that. I mean, it was there was no hostility counting snaps, who's getting this target, who's running this route. Because I mean, I think that's real around the NFL. That's real everywhere. I mean, realistically, I mean, we're all trying to compete to be out there and do this job, and then you got someone else in your position group trying to do that as well. And that like that was an awesome year with them coming in. I was like, I remember actually watching them both get drafted. I was like, oh, first rounder, nice. Okay, they said they're gonna do for another third rounder, sweet man. I'm like, I'm out of here. No, I'm just kidding. But like then you come to meet them and then they're really cool dudes and then it's just like you just get along and you're out there trying to help each other out and get better because it's just I mean I just don't know how people go out there competing with people in their own position group and try to like not help them out or tell them something wrong or do something because I think competition brings out the best in everybody. It makes you better when you're competing with someone and like I said, our just and around the locker room, we were always hanging around each other, whether in the cafeteria, locker room, walkthroughs. And there were times where, someone would get this route and the other two guys would always joke at him, like kind of poking at him, but it's really true behind it. But everything was just joking and lighthearted. And it was just like it was a good time. And, obviously like we were used a lot. And there was just a lot of different ways they could use us. And like I said, there was just no oh, like he's getting this route. It's just a
Right.
really good friendship.
Oh no, that's awesome, and it was a blast to
Yeah.
watch because some of those, again, the combinations. It's like you never know, is it going to be Mark and Nick, Nick and Hayden,
Yeah.
Hayden? Like
Yep.
it was always something different, which is keeps defenses off kilter
Yeah.
when you
For
use the
sure.
tight end so much. So that
Yeah.
was always a blast. And so I got to press on this too. Mark Andrews' development of his blocking skills have been one of the coolest things in his progression. I know everyone looks at the
Hmm.
yards and the touchdowns, and those are obviously awesome, but he's really developed as a blocker. Have you worked with him specifically, or is it just him as a player being kind of that dog mentality? It's just kind of developed with it.
Yeah. I mean, he's like you said. I totally agree with you with his blocking and getting stronger and just blocking also is a want to thing. It kind of is, and sometimes you're not the strongest dude, and maybe your technique's not always right, but like you just have to want to do it and want to you know beat that dude across from you. And Mark has that in him, and he's also technically sound. And I don't think it's like I've specifically worked with him, but when we're all in meeting rooms together he'd be like, "Oh, like, how do we tactics?" We all have open discussions, and that's vice versa with him on certain routes. I'm like, "Hey, man, what are you doing here?" or something, and we
Right.
learn from each other in that way. And it's not like, "Oh, we're going to go on the field separately and work with each other." It's kind of like we work as a community in the room, asking questions and make sure we're clear cut on how we're going to do something. And he just took that want to get stronger and everything out to the field. Like for blocking wise and blocking on the perimeter, he's awesome blocking on the perimeter, especially being at the number 2 or 3 and all our stuff, and he could do it all. And he's like I said, a tremendous player, obviously an awesome receiver, one of the most creative kind of route runners I think or minds. Like if I try to run certain routes like him, it's just like I just can't do it because it's just so creative and he sometimes Mark's just doing Mark out there. It's just true how it is, and it works. And like I said, it's just fun to be with him, and he's a really really good friend, really good guy, and just really fun to be around.
This, I was told I had to ask you. There's a running joke in the Ravens Twitter community that I look like the Canadian Mark Andrews. Do you see it at all?
Oh yeah, I do see it for sure. I can totally see it. If you like maybe trim up your beard a little bit. It's just like your color, your hair, and the shape of your like the hair and your hairline and your beard. I can totally see that for
People
sure.
keep tagging him in, and I'm like, he's gonna hate me because it's like an insult to him. But
Yeah, he's probably like, "Who is this guy, bro? Like, come on."
I love it.
But
I love it.
that's funny.
Uh, anyway, man. Well, that's all I have for you. I again appreciate your time so much. This was such a blast. And obviously, I'm looking so like just so pumped to get you back out on the field, and I hope the recovery, goes well going into camp. And I hope you have a great season this year.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been awesome talking to you. I love talking to people about football, and it's just something fun to do. And I'm glad how much you love it and how much you just understand and try to understand, and knowing like there's just always so much more to learn. There's always so much to understand, and it's just fun. Fun. It was so much fun to sit up here and talking to you about it, and just kind of giving you an insight about kind of how things go. Yeah, so I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. And so, everyone out there, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe if you've been here. Big thanks to Nick Boyle. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.